What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Not Bland Show. I'm your host, Dujane Bland, and before we get this thing started, you guys know the drill. If you're new here, please like and subscribe and share our YouTube channel. If you're watching from any of the social media channels, is at the Not Bland Show. It is at the Not Bland Show. So go over there, give it a subscribe and share. Greatly appreciate it. I want to thank our sponsors and our sponsor with Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. What a weekend it was for a lot of people in Drag Race Bracket Bonanza land. Want to thank Everything Nitro, of course, Sports Journey, and the people who we go to, DragRaceReference.com. Want to thank them. And look, it's going to be a great show. This will not be a recap show, but we will be talking about some of the big stories here that we have in this after we ended this first quarter of the regular season in Vegas. Vegas was very, very surprising in so many ways, good and bad. And we'll talk about that. We're going to have Dave W on right after we get this word from our sponsor.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
And man, it was a great weekend for picking winners. It was also a tough weekend. Nicole Clark has taken the lead in the overall in the Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, the Not Bland Show League. Welcome in Memphis Lonnie. Yeah, man, we're back, and this is going to be pretty cool with this first quarter of the regular season. The stories that we have. Is this show gonna milk? Absolutely not. We're gonna talk about it, but we're not gonna milk that cow. I think that cow is run out of milk. It's likely dust at the moment. Yes, I thought I was with the right guard, and I was not. And this is what we ended up with. The hair will come back, but yeah, it was a bit of a mistake. We didn't want to do that, but here we are. There's nothing we can do about it. So, I'll embrace it. It's been a long time since my hair has been this close. That's for sure. What's going on, Blake? Welcome to the show. Man, what a great weekend, Dave, and a great first quarter of the regular season. So many new faces starting off the season with W's.
It really is surprising. It's not something that we're used to seeing, and a lot of faces that we're used to seeing up front that are kind of like you're putting out an APB. Where'd these guys go? So the parity is definitely strong, at least in the Nitro classes. Maybe not so much in Pro Stock. And unfortunately, even though we're a quarter of the way through the entire regular season, we've only seen the motorcycles just once. But they're coming back. They'll be back, so we'll get to talk about them again. It's been kind of status quo in the Pro Stock classes. But the Nitro categories have been just everything's a toss-up, and we're getting new faces and new places every race, and it is refreshing to see if you like parity of the sport or you're a fan of a certain driver who doesn't usually have success.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll start in the Pro Stock ranks with the stories there. Look, I did some research on this round win-loss record between Anderson and Glenn. Starting back, if you go back to the countdown last year, Anderson finishes 15-5 round win-loss record, Glenn 15-4 round win-loss record. So far this season, both of them are 13-2 round win-loss records for a combined 56-13 dating back to the first race of the countdown to the championship in 2024. Talk about the hot streak carrying over from last year. is an understatement. They're on a tear right now, and it looks like this wave is going to be tough to stop.
I think that it is. They've got the power and they've got the driving, and they're combining them together. And where did Elite go? I don't know, but have those two just really stepped up their game that much? It's amazing that we're a quarter of the way through the season, and they're pretty much – they've kind of gone back and forth. They're separated by 4 points, all right? 4 points. So is this like Greg Anderson and Jason Line 2.0? Probably, especially when you look at where the rest of the field stacks up. Matt Hartford's third place in points. He's 160 back. 160 points covers the top 10 in Funny Car and Top Fuel. That's how good Greg Anderson and Dallas Glenn have started the season. And now that we're giving out regular season championships, yeah, we may be a quarter of the way through the season, but those guys, anybody third on down is going to have a lot of ground to make up to even be a contender by the time we get to Indy for that regular season championship. I think a lot of them are kind of giving that up and going, boy, I hope we get our stuff right by September so we can give them a shot in the last 6, because I think for the rest of this season, those two are going to be the story.
Yeah, I think so too. The cars are just running very well in that combination, like you said, driver, car. It's tough to beat. And when you look around, you look at Matt Hartford and what he's been able to put forth here as far as performance. You look at a Matt Latino showed up.
Right.
Even you got Corey Coughlin. Really, if he cut a better light, he likely would have found himself around ahead and was able to go another round. They have cars that are performing from top to bottom here in KB. They're more than in a stride. They're really kind of in a full sprint right now.
They are. And the other thing that you really don't see too much, Dallas did have the misstep in the finals at Phoenix. All right. He launched it. He left before the tree, gave that one away. Otherwise, this would have been the exact opposite. I mean, you'd be talking about Dallas Glenn's hot start to the season. I think Greg's biggest drawback or downfall is his car has lacked the consistency. He's had way too many early shutoffs. He broke into finals at Phoenix. He broke into finals at Gainesville. He's had a couple of qualifying sessions that he's had some early shutoffs in. The car and the tune-up that they've got going on there is really going to be what's going to hinder him, I think. Surprisingly, it has not been, as we always kind of tend to point out, Greg has always a good hot rod and tends to get beat on the starting line. It hasn't been the case this year. He's really stepped up the reaction time game, and he's been on par. Yes, he has had a couple of snafus where he has been out early, especially in the Mission Foods Challenge on Saturday. But at the same time, you're also trying to put down a number and make sure you're number one in the show and you're ready for Sunday too. So that's really the only variable I see going forward is Greg's car has seemingly let him down more than Dallas has had as far as mistakes. And it's going to be who can minimize those mistakes going forward between the two of them. And if anybody else can catch up to him, good luck.
Do you think also we have the numbers, and the numbers say that this isn't something that will happen, but is there part of you that might think that these two are getting hot too early?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all. Because look, you just go back a couple of seasons, look at the hot streak that Erica Enders started 2022 with. I mean, she was out there in the finals and winning races after race after race. And that didn't diminish as the season went by. I mean, when you got the setup, you got the setup. And right now they got the setup, whether it's something that they found in the chassis, little extra horsepower they found in the tuning, whatever they've got going on right now, they have shared the wealth, and it is across the entire KB Titan camp. Like you had mentioned the other drivers earlier, Matt Hartford third in points, Corey Reed fourth, Derek Kramer fifth in points, and a very surprising Mason McGahey sixth. Shout out to them not being linked with KB or Elite in their motor department to be right there ahead of all of the Elite teams.
Yeah, they have performed well early, especially Mason. It's wild to see this seemingly drop off, but it's clear that the elite camp is battling something. I don't believe it's horsepower. I think it's probably a combination of something dealing with the clutch setup. It may be, eating through the clutch. Maybe they're having some gremlins outside of that as well. But it's definitely not because these cats can't drive. You know what I mean?
No.
I don't, with the big hoopla around Erica and, the people throwing poop over the fence. I don't see anything wrong with her driving. That doesn't seem to be the problem. And if you listened to either broadcast, they pretty much knew they were coming in here. They were limping in here. They did not have enough time to figure out what they needed to figure out. They knew they were limping in here, and they were hoping that they could roll the dice and possibly give themselves an opportunity to make the show. And it didn't happen. This isn't something we haven't seen before. I mean, people acting like, there's some kind of big time surprise. And I see people talking about she's washed up and all this other nonsense. Like, the pendulum has swung back and forth in pro stock. This is the life of pro stock. And unfortunately, right now, that pendulum is not in their favor and they are struggling. Fortunate enough for them, it's only the first quarter of the regular season. So they've got time to make this up and get back on track. But it's clear they haven't figured out whatever this gremlin is. They have not figured it out. And they, fortunately enough, have 2 weeks to hopefully find something that can give them an opportunity here at the 4-Wide Nationals in Charlotte.
For sure. And it's concerning because you don't know. They did mention that they went and they tested. They didn't have high hopes. And I don't know if that's because of the heat, because of the altitude, what they found or they didn't find. They might do better in Charlotte, more favorable conditions. I'm sure the weather forecast to be a little bit better there. Would see a lot of times back in the 650s as opposed to 60s and, mid to high 60s for eliminations. But it's very interesting that all of the cars as a whole seem to fall off. And yes, Erica is a big story, but I mean, even Troy Coughlin Jr. not making the show. That's a big story that just seemingly got overshadowed by Erica not making it. But that's, two of their big name drivers that have given most of the success. And to get down to the last run, which ended up being the Mission Foods final round, to get Jag in the show. I mean, the fact that it was either going to, Troy we know is not going to make it, and the 16th spot's going to come down to either Erica or Jag being in the show. These are things that are unheard of. So I'm sure that whatever it is, it's a gremlin that's seemingly striking all the cars at once.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Stanfield, not running very well. We know what Aaron was last year. It seems like the only cars that really have been at least somewhat decent have been the Quadra cars. Outside of that, though, everybody else is, kind of trying to swim upstream here with trying to, find the performance that they once had before 2025 struck. So, I think there's a whole lot to do about nothing. This is just part of pro stock racing. We've seen it before. It's no different than, we saw Bob Glidden struggle. We saw, Warren Johnson, Kurt Johnson, you name it, Bruce Allen, you name it. They've had their times where they struggle. Mike Edwards, after winning a championship, seemingly got caught the next year. We even saw this from Greg Anderson, living high on the hog, and all of a sudden they got caught. And it's just part of pro stock, man. That pendulum is always swinging. And now it's swung in KB's favor.
Like you mentioned, going back and forth to their successes, it swung in Elite's favor a couple years ago. Go back to 22, 23, and it was Erica, Troy, and Aaron Stanfield running over the field, and it was, where's Greg? Is Greg washed up? Is Greg ready to retire? You know, so it goes back and forth for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't sound the alarms yet. The funny thing though is when you're talking about pro stock in general, it's always the category that you just say everybody's got a chance to win. And the fields this year, aside from Gainesville, which was a little bit of an anomaly just because Greg Anderson went out there and laid out that epic pass in qualifying, have all been, the field spread from 1st to 16th has been between 600 to 800. It's all, you know, for the other events. And that can be made up on the starting line. And they always say, you know what, look how tight these fields are. Look how hard it is to qualify, and anybody can win. But so far, there's only 2 that have done it. So you could say anybody can win till you're blue in the face, but till somebody steps up and proves that to be the fact, it's Greg and Dallas from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go out and prove it on Sunday. And, you know, yes, it is, things are tight and, you know, things are, you know, close in that form of racing. But at the end of the day, it's who's coming out on top at the end of the day. And right now, all of those folks that anybody can win, that's part of that anybody can win mantra, have not done jack. So
anybody can do it. Step up and take it then.
Exactly.
You're Wally.
Exactly. It has been a one-sided show so far in pro stock. But you look at the nitro classes and you know, we've got new faces making the field, 2 new funny car drivers. You got 3 new pro stock drivers that qualified. It's been a story of new faces, and they're actually competitive.
They are. I mean, you've got Spencer Hyde coming out, struggled, missed the first 2 races, comes back with a vengeance, goes deep into eliminations in Pomona, wins the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge in Vegas, and then kind of stumbled a little bit with that out of control tire smoker. But you know, it's going to happen. But they're out there. Hunter Green shows up, qualifies 6th in his first race. I mean, he goes out there. They got the power to do it, and it's neat to see the new blood entering, and at the same time, also you've got guys going around. I mean, you've got. We're talking about, we're finished for the first quarter of the season. Paul Lee's the points leader. Paul Lee's leading the points in funny car. I mean, it's right at the top. He's right there with the JFR cars. Don't get me wrong. Jack Beckman, Austin Prock are right behind him. They're only within a round or so and some qualifying points, but still. But you know, there's no doubt in my mind that regardless of the guarantee from running the full season that Paul Lee was going to be in the countdown this year after what happened last year and last fall and not making it and coming out doing well in those countdown races. And that momentum is carried. And I think it speaks a lot for that team for how they've started this year.
It does. It really does. You know, I always was a fan of Johnny Lindbergh and his ability to be able to tune a race car. And then you have somebody like, you know, John Medlin mentoring him. It was just a matter of time. And they've got good parts, good pieces. And that's showing, you know, I believe they are 7-3 round win-loss record. They're more than halfway to their win total that they had all season, round win-loss record total they had all season in 12 rounds of racing won, 16 lost, 8 first-round exits that they had, and 2 runner-ups. They've turned those runner-ups into 1 win and a runner-up, or he did not finish second. So I don't like to call anybody who did not finish second a runner-up. If you finish third or fourth, you made it to the semifinal round. I'm with Dallas on that. You made it to the semifinal round. So made a semi here. And they are a car to contend with. That's the thing. They are a problem for the Force cars. You know, we haven't seen Matt Hagan look like in the Pro Superstar Shootout that Dickey's gone, no problem. Shown up here first 4 races of the season, might be a small learning curve right now. Not the same car that was in the Pro Superstar Shootout. We've seen Ron Capps had the unfortunate slam to the wall. Hasn't been quite the car that he was last year.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't sleep on a lot of these individuals who are within, the ranks of funny car. Look at Cruz, had a decent day. Usually, like you've stated before, we talked about this. Cruz does very well at four wides. It's kind of his thing. Thought he should have made it to the final. He did not. But, this is kind of his thing here. And then you're adding in people who we already know, Austin Prock, J.R. Todd made it to the next round. They seem to be starting to find little things, as I've talked about before. This is Dickie Venable's game plan and the way he likes to do things here on this race car. So it's taken them a little bit of time to execute what Dickie likes to do as a coach and what he likes to call as far as tune-ups. So they're all learning right now, but it seems like they're making progress. And Dave Richards had a day, huh? Guy goes from smoking tires and doing 2 burnouts during eliminations to finding his way down the racetrack and into what was the final round of the 4 wide. Huge confidence boost for that team who, despite what it looked like, they have been working extremely hard to get this car consistent.
Well, and the thing is, it was a surprise for sure. And I'm sure that was a huge bracket buster to everybody on Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. Because yes, did we have Dave Richards in the final 4? Probably not. No, I don't think that when it came to upsets from that corner of the ladder, that was certainly not somebody that I picked. But I mean, huge confidence booster for him. And yes, I agree somewhat with, you can't really call them runner-ups, but I mean, all 4 of those drivers technically could have walked out with a Wally after one more pass. So
yeah,
really, Dave Richards is a finalist. Anyway, you look, yes, he finished in runner or semifinal status, but I mean, the man was there. He was in the last run of the day.
For
and
sure.
That's 3 national events in a row that you had somebody could pick up their first win. You had Paul Lee at Phoenix, who did it. Daniel Wickerson at Pomona, who didn't. Dave Richards here didn't do it. Who's going to be the next one? Spencer Hyde going to be in the final at Charlotte with a chance to win the first race. So you got guys that are going rounds. We talked about Chad Green starting the season with a win. All right, how is that going to carry him on? Well, he's still 5th in points. He's still top 5 in points, and he's only 88 back.
Yeah.
Matt Hagan, you talk about him struggling to the start of the year. He's only 44 out of the lead in 4th. There's a lot of guys who are quietly just going rounds, putting down qualifying points, and keeping themselves at the top of the list. Dan Wilson 6th. I mean, that's something you don't. Cruz, a solid 8th in points.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys that are up there, and they're doing well. And I like the parity in the class. I really do, because last year you picked Prock and you picked Beckman, and that was going to be your finals unless they met early. But that was pretty much towards the end of the year. This year has started out completely unpredictable in category. And other than, again, the 4 wide finals are kind of an anomaly because you got the 4 cars in there. But if you take Austin Prock and Paul Lee out of the equation, having the other 2, you'd basically have 4 races and different finalists in each race. So you'd have 8 different, had the results gone the other way and the win and the runner-up column, you'd had 8 different faces in the finals in the first 4 races as a winner and a runner-up. You can't get any better than that.
No. This is, the NHRA is licking its chops right now because this is what you want to see, because people can get bored real quick if we don't see others competitive, and this would have been the Austin Prock and Jack Beckman show.
Right.
Folks get bored real quick. This is a script that they couldn't have written themselves, and I think going into another 4 wide race, I do think you see a first-time winner in funny car here coming up in Charlotte, especially with the way that others have performed. Now, granted, this is probably going to be a track that the conditions are going to be a little bit better than what they experienced in Vegas due to the heat. But yeah, I love where this class is at, and I think we're going to see a lot of this throughout the season. I don't think you see a whole lot of repeat winners in the funny car class this year. I think it's going to be tough for guys to win more than 2 races this year in the regular season.
It could be. And I think you bring up an interesting point about what's Charlotte going to be like track condition wise. Because in all honesty, other than Chad Green winning the Gator Nationals with a 392, the other 3 national events winning elapsed times 403, a 401, and a 4 flat to win these races. Yeah. So they're getting to the finals and they're struggling. They're going out there. It's a battle of survival. So is it just maybe is it that the teams have more parity, or is the track conditions this season become a big equalizer and nobody's been able to really get a hold of these things and get to power down every pass?
Yeah, that's the key, man. It's trying to get it to the racetrack. And it seems like everybody at some point has struggled to do that in funny car. But yeah, it's been fun over there in funny car. It's been interesting in Top Fuel. Not as many cars so far early this season outside of Gainesville. And here at the Vegas Nationals, that man who's won in pretty much everything, Mr. Tony Stewart, gets his first win out of this thing. I wasn't sure if they were going to do it early, but I tweeted out, I believe it was right in round after they won the second round, or maybe it was the first round. I felt like this was his day. This was a thing where the track, the conditions really kind of played into what Neil Strasbaugh is doing well right now. Unlike everybody else who love you, Brian Karate, but I'm glad you didn't say anything, because there was no reason to say anything about the track conditions. At the end of the day, it was hot as hell. What they were able to give you is what they were able to give you. We don't get to race in pristine conditions all the time. It cannot be picture perfect. That's why you're the crew chief. And you have to adapt to the conditions. And Tony Stewart and that team, Neil Strasbaugh and Damagala, did an excellent job of adapting to the race conditions and allowing him to make clean passes throughout the day. I think sometimes, you saw one big number or a few big numbers and you thought that you could repeat that. And folks got bit thinking they could repeat 70s when really, 80s were the theme of the day.
And I really want to say it's ironic that they raced each other in both of the quads, because Steve Torrence had himself a race car to win that race. Yes, he advanced with Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart did win the race on a whole shot first round. But Steve Torrence did lay down a 384 first round. Let's don't forget to Tony's 386. And in the second round, Doug Coletta's red light must have just thrown everybody off.
Yeah.
Ashley goes out there with an 024 light, Stewart with a 52, and then Steve Torrence comes up with a 230 light and just throws it all away because he goes 392. He was low at a quad. And again, just unfortunate. He had such a terrible light and he's out. Not that I still don't know how the final round would have played out, but it definitely would have been Steve Torrence displacing Justin Ashley in that final round. And you give them 3 shots at the track and Steve 3 shots at the starting line. And I don't think it's Tony Stewart's day. Not to take anything away from Tony. They did what they had to do. They cut the lights. They ran the numbers. They made it down the track. And that's what it takes.
Yeah. He made his worst light was in,
but they got it down.
Yep. His worst light was in the last, in the final.
Right.
And Randy, you're right. It seemed like 1 and 3 were dominating all day. It seems like that those folks who went in those lanes had their tune-up down pat in that area. If you look at my drag race bracket bonanza pick, once again, Steve Torrance cost me. Again, look, you had one job last week.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you slide this week because I'm like, Doug double steps, and I think it just threw everybody. You're already doing 4 wide, and then you got a guy double whacking the throttle, and everybody's like, what? You're looking at the light, you're like, what? And everybody got messed up, except for Justin, of course. But, I mean, what more can this guy do? He's had 2 weekends of having probably the best car on the premises, and ends up going out of here on something stupid.
And it's just amazing. And it would be curious to see. I would be curious to see, had that not happened, and could Doug make it down? Because, I mean, Doug went down. They got down lane number 1 at a 377. They were low ET at first round.
Yeah.
That when they can get that Mac Tools dragster to stick, I mean, he was low ET at a weekend, number 1 qualifier, low ET first round, gives it away in the second round. So that's another one, just another golden opportunity missed. And that was kind of their MO a couple years ago, and that's what cost them the championship all those times. And they're out there struggling to find the magic back. Same thing with David Grubnick and Brittany Force. Top speed at a meet again, goes down there and can lay down a mid-70, but the lack of consistency across the board is just got to be killing these crew chiefs right now.
It is. It really is. It's so bizarre. And I mean, how fortunate has Jasmine Salinas been in all of this?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and something told me that I should have put her in over Sean, just for the simple fact that this has been like the second race where she's been up against what seemingly seems to be that she's going to be put on the trailer in round 1, and she cuts a very good light. Rob Flynn gives her a great car. They go right down there and boom, get the W. And she's got to be somebody now that you have to really watch, especially I think we know what this car is capable of when the conditions are great, but I think this is great for them because we don't have very many cool months, as many people think, during the regular season.
Right.
So this is going to be good for them in the long run. And with her being able to, I know she doesn't give herself credit up there on the top end for what she's done on the starting line, but she's done an excellent job on the starting line. Whatever she's doing is working. And they're giving her a race car to be able to perform and get down the racetrack there. She's had some really fortunate, and you got to have a little luck, right? That's what it's all about. You got to have a little luck, and they've had an opportunity to go rounds, and she found herself there at the end with an opportunity to win. So, all of these cars have been great. The short fields, though, have not been. We were 1 car short here. But yeah, not that. And I think that will change now that we're on the East Coast. I just think it's money. It boils down to money for these small teams. I'm going to go here real quick with the Tony Stewart win. It is big in the sense that this cat, no matter what he does, he never is half-assing it. And, as anything, it takes a little bit of luck to win. And he did his job. And at the end, the crew chief did his job. And really, guys, when it comes down to it, it's a lot on the crew chief and less on the driver than we kind of make it out to be, especially in Top Fuel. I've used the analogy: a coach can call a great play, and it likely is the play that is going to take advantage of said defense. But if guys don't execute, really doesn't matter who you got at quarterback. Doesn't matter if guys don't execute. So you can have the greatest driver on the planet. If you don't have the guys in the trenches to do the job right, all that stuff don't even matter, because you can't take your game plan and get it down the racetrack. And that's important, and that's what they were able to do. So talking about this win for him, what I'm hoping from this is that this brings eyeballs over, because let's not get it twisted. TSR does an excellent job of promoting their drivers and doing all that they can social media wise to attract. This win now, I think, gets some eyes turning. Now, the eyes I want to come looking and sniffing over here at the NHRA are some of your NASCAR sponsors that a lot of our little teams need. That one sponsor would get them to 4 races that they didn't make, or 3 races they didn't make out west. If they had a little a better primary sponsor, just doesn't have to be big, but big enough to get them over there. That's what I'm hoping from this. I don't know what your thoughts are on this win and what it can do, but that's what I'm hoping that the win now can do. He's not just here. He actually was able to execute and get a W.
I mean, the man went from a rookie of the year to a race-winning driver. So, I think it looks good in general just because of who he is. Mm-hmm. But he is very clear, and was very clear in his press release or press interview after his win, that what he has done and his successes in other versions of motorsports don't really carry over. He was very, very adamant in saying, I'm used to winning in my first season because most of the other series I've been in, it's 30% setup, 70% driver, and I can make up for it. Here, right, it's about the opposite. It's 30% driver, 70% crew chief and tune-up. And I don't know anything about it to be able to help and get that part, lined up. If they're struggling, I can't help them. I can't go out there and tell them, put a little more pressure in the right rear and it'll hook better. It doesn't work that way, not in a dragster. Exactly. But I think in general, and he also mentioned this in his post-race press conference, he's going back to Charlotte, and all of his NASCAR buddies are going to come hang out and come see him and visit him. Yeah. And he's going back not only a race winner, but the most recent race winner. And he's hoping that that's going to bring more eyes and bring them out there. And anytime that you could bring more people into it, the sponsor part would be great. Believe me, I think it would be beautiful. But the NASCAR teams are hurting for money too. The small-time NASCAR teams are hurting for money. I think what Rick Ware Racing is doing is great, having partnership with Arby's on Clay's Top Fuel car and on the NASCAR side of things. They're going, hey, Arby's, give us the money. We'll get you in 2 different series and in front of 2 different sets of eyeballs and double your value for what you're doing. So It would be nice to entice the sponsors, but it would be really nice to entice maybe some of the team owners, kind of like we thought was going to happen. And had been originally talked about when Tony came over and then Rick followed suit. We've not really seen too much of that, other than not so much in the team owner aspect, but Rick Hendrick sure is throwing a lot of money towards drag racing on the Force team and on the KB Titan team, and plastering his name across the cars with HendrickCars.com. So I think it would be very interesting if some of the sponsors could come out there, if they can cross promote. I think that the series in general, you need to have like it used to be, where you'd have a Penzo car in each series. a Quicker State car in each series, a Budweiser car in each, have that exposure across all divisions of motorsports instead of motorsports tearing each other down, competing for the almighty dollar and saying, well, we're the fastest and you guys suck and you guys go in circles and, you this and NASCAR's a different crowd. Like, bring it together. You probably bring more people out and have a better chance at promoting stuff than knocking the next guy down, which speaking of, I guess could be a quick off-topic comment. How about the new NHRA t-shirt that was released in Las Vegas, kind of poking fun at the fastest motorsports in the world comments that have been going on, and now they're selling them.
So I'm going to be honest here, because that's what I'm about. That was yesterday's news. You know what? Nobody else is thinking about it. You think IndyCar gives a damn? No, not anymore. They heard you. But continuing this thing now is beating a dead horse. We made our point. Should have made the shirts 2 weeks ago or 2 races ago. And it would have made more. Yeah, it would have made more impact. Right now, it's beating a dead horse, and it sounds like we're still the kid that's you allowed them to play, and you're still over there pouting because you missed one game. It does nothing for me. It's cute, but it should have happened 2 weeks ago. You just look like you're beating a dead horse now, and that's just honesty.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with that. I was just curious because they were quick to point out that they got the hot off the presses and the printers at the Nitro Mall. Go out and get your new T-shirt. We're the fastest.
Should have been 2 races ago. That's all I'm saying. Should have been 2 races ago. Blake asked, how long do you think it will be until Steve starts to win races again? I'll start this. And look, Steve is different. And Steve is, look, I'm just out here having fun because I can. I have the money to do so. And the second it doesn't get fun anymore, I'll just pack this shit up and go home. You know what I mean? Do I think he wants to win? Absolutely. He is not a competitor. But is it the same end-all be-all that it used to be for him? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So when does he win? I think he has every ability. He should be winning next race in 2 weeks with the way his car's been performing. But that's why they race him. We don't race him on paper. And unfortunately, he's had some errors that have cost him the ability to win race. So I think he could win it next week. But I do think sometime in this second quarter of the regular season, he will pull off a win in Top Fuel during the regular season. It'll be in the second quarter of the regular season. What you think?
I think one of the next 3 races. I think Charlotte or Epping. You can see him with the Wally in his hand. That's my thought.
Yeah.
And I feel like, kind of like what you're saying, Steve is different because he's a family man now. And I think it's also different because he went out there and he's been there, done that. He's won the championships. He's swept the countdown. He don't have nothing else left to prove. He's going to go down as one of the greatest drivers to race in Top Fuel no matter what, even if he walked away tomorrow. And that's, the fact that he skipped Phoenix. I just got more stuff going on at home that I need to take care of that is more important than being at the racetrack. So,
yeah.
But he's still got that desire to do it, and he's still got the ability. So never count him out.
Great point. Kind of lost all that in the sauce, but Randy Couture coming out here gonna field a pro mod. That's gonna be pretty cool.
That'd be interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know how much he's driven one of these things. Obviously, you got to get your license, but I think it's gonna be pretty interesting there. Caleb says, wild to go from never staging a car to a pro. Yeah, exactly. He said you don't just jump into the ring with Ali because you think you can box. He says some nitro drivers won't even get into those. I agreed. They are some of the most finicky, squirrely, crazy, unpredictable door cars out there. And for him to jump in one and never been in one, that's not my place that I would start at all. And probably would never drive one of those. But the fact that he's willing to harvest his nuts and do this, I applaud him for it. We'll see. Everybody will be watching. We'll see how this thing turns out, man. We will see how this thing turns out.
There's got to be a reason that he picked that category, though, right? You know
what
I mean?
Be a reason.
And did he pick it because he thought it's cool and it's a fast door car, or did they kind of push him that way because they're like, look, we've already got a Skag everything into Pro Series except for a bike, and I don't think you want to get on a bike, so we'll put you in a Pro Mod. What do you think about that? And he's like, all right, run it. I mean, really, in all honesty, nothing. He ain't afraid of it. If you're afraid of it, you shouldn't even get behind the wheel or put a helmet on, if that's the case.
Exactly.
And there's guys that got decades worth of experience that could still put them over to center line or upside down. So get in there and do it, man. And more power to you. Jump in with both feet and go.
So I'll go back to a question that I don't think we touched on, but this was something that was said. She said, and he finds it weird, and I did find that interesting, although they're going to put the same transmission into that car, but they went back to an older car, and they still didn't get the results. So I don't think it's the car. I think it's something to do with transmission engine combination somewhere.
Yeah, but I thought that I heard her mention that in her commentary too, that she went back to the 2014 car that they had all the successes in and ran those couple of back-to-back championships, the favorite car. I'm sure they've done updates to them, but even going back to the Warren Johnson days, they wear out. They tweak, they get bent, they twist. I mean, the pipe only stays good for so long. And I can't imagine that going out there, the rigidity of the car is probably not there. It's probably not planting the tire like they're wanting to. Nobody was getting a 60-foot time in Vegas, though. The track don't need to get off that starting line in general. But I'm surprised that they would go back that way. However, they have seemingly proven that their setups and their combinations seem to favor older chassis and older cars, because when new cars come out, they give them to different drivers because they're like, they didn't perform like we thought it was going to.
Right. So, break this thing in and we'll come back to it.
Right, exactly, which I find unusual, but maybe that's how their tune-up works. So whatever works for you, you got to get it done.
Yeah, they got to get it done, got to find a way. And I believe they will find a way. We know Richard Freeman, and this ain't sitting well in his craw. No. It definitely ain't sitting well in Erica's craw. That's why they passed the scales. Like, we were just they were done. They were completely done
because they knew that they didn't make the show. So once Jeg put them out, they're like, well, we don't have to stop. And there was a big controversy on Facebook about it on the Competition Plus post, which I thought was humorous because I figured that's what happened anyway. They probably just bypassed the scales, and somebody just wanted to argue, you never bypass him. What if Jeg was light? What if this? I'm like, well, they were sitting there waiting for Jeg. So if he was light, they'd have been right behind him. Right. But if you ever go back to the NHRA Pro Mod days when they used to have 60 Pro Mods showing up, if you shook the tires or you didn't make the quick 16, that line for the scales was so long, half the bottom of the sheet was all just DQs because they're like, we're just going back to the pits. We ain't waiting. Toss the run. It ain't good enough anyway. And that's all they did. The run wasn't quick enough. It didn't matter. It's a non-story. They went back to the pits. They loaded everything up, and hopefully they had a good night in Vegas not being at the track, because that's heartbreaking for that. And that long of a streak to be in the field, that many consecutive national events in a row and have that broken. So, yeah. I mean, the longest right now, you'd still have to go back to Greg Anderson, which NHRA counts his streak all the way back to Vegas 2002. But don't forget, he skipped some races in 2014 when he had his heart surgery. So, to me, you can only have 16 drivers with a consecutive qualified streak at one time. If they run the race and you ain't in it, your streak's over. Sorry. Yeah. But still, you'd go back to the spring of 2014. Greg Anderson's been every race since. So that is the current longest going on.
Man, Yeah, it does suck when you have, streaks like that broken. I think much as players don't mention it, they know they don't want to have that streak broken by injury, especially when it's a record. It's something that they can, kind of tout, and they don't want to have it broken. They want to extend that record. That had to suck, along with the fact that it just wasn't a good day. It hasn't been a good first quarter of the season for this team. And, it was, to me, I didn't see anything wrong with it. It's not a big deal. They weren't in the show, and,
a lot of season left. A lot of season to go.
A lot of season to go.
Speaking of being in the first quarter, I would like to mention Drag Race Mayhem brought up. He said, just look at Justin Ashley. He mentioned that in comments. This is the first time in 4 years that Justin Ashley hasn't been in a final round in the first 4 races of the year.
Yeah.
That team usually starts strong.
They do.
And this is the first time that they have not been in a final round to start the season in one of the first 4 races. You'd have to go all the way back to 2021, the last time that happened.
Yeah. And it looks like Mike Green is struggling a little bit too, man. Struggling a little bit.
That was a heck of a boomer, I think, that they had too. That is a team that is not known for really blowing a lot of stuff up, and that was a pretty big explosion.
Yeah. Yeah. Uncharacteristic for sure. I think we've seen a couple of explosions this year that are just kind of head scratchers a little bit. Caleb says, I wish we were going to Houston this time of year. Yeah, that would be a great racetrack. It's sad that it is like one of those things that is no longer with us.
Nothing
Rest
left,
in
baby.
peace,
It's all gone.
Houston. He says, Blake says, in my opinion, Randy Couture Racing Pro Mod will give both NHRA and UFC because people who are UFC fans will start to pay attention to NHRA drag racing. What do you think? I think if he can make the show and make some noise, I mean, there's a lot of tough drivers, tough cars over there. But if he can make some noise, I think you will see people, from the UFC, Dana White and others to peek over, maybe even come out and, see him race. So it's just going to depend on, can he go rounds and can he put the thing in the show first,
I'll put it out there. I'm not a big fan or proponent of, hey, if this guy comes over, they're going to bring X with them. Because I don't think I've seen anything over the history of motorsports that really proves that to be the case.
True.
You had Kurt Busch come over and run a pro stock car at Gainesville with Alan Johnson a little over a decade ago. It wasn't like all the NASCAR fans came to Gainesville to see how he did. You had Tony Stewart in an alcohol dragster. The regional races still had no crowds. You could go to your local drag strip, pay $25-$30 and meet Tony Stewart if you were a big Tony Stewart fan. But his days, if you had somebody do it, I think perhaps in the height of their popularity, you might have it. Like, let's just say Tony Stewart, fresh off his championship, or Joey Logano, for example, just won the last NASCAR championship. Pennzoil says, hey, come on, you want to come run a pro stock car? We'll put you in a Pennzoil pro stock. Or Greg Anderson says, you know what, I'm going to retire. And Rick Hendrick says, all right, we're going to put Kyle Larson in Greg's pro stock car. Do you think people are going to come and see him? I mean, they may tune in just out of curiosity, just like the drivers that do one-offs in the Indy 500. But how many drag racing fans started watching NASCAR Truck Series racing because Tanner Gray was the defending pro stock world champ and started running trucks? How many drag race fans go, I'm going to tune into that race at Daytona and see how his first truck race goes? Nobody. Yeah. You know what I mean? It sounds great, and it's great that the drivers can cross-promote and go different places, but, former USAC fans aren't watching Doug Coletta and see what he does in NHRA now. It adds to the driver's resume. It sounds good, but you ain't getting the UFC crew out here. And when was Randy's last fight?
I don't even know.
It's just like the money team. Floyd Money Mayweather's coming out. We're going to get Maurice DuPont and Maurice DuPont's son out there, and we're going to have a Top Fuel dragster. They're not bringing nobody. You got to get somebody that's out here. You probably the closest maybe might have been Nigel Mansell going back and forth from IndyCar to F1 and back in that couple year span and contending and winning championships and winning races on both sides. So I don't really think that, you don't have the cross promotion in the way that it is. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Any developments? I know they bought Galat
and Columbus. They own Columbus now. That's finalized.
That's right. I did not see that, but that they're making moves. So we'll see. Little by little. Like I said, I just hope they're doing it the right way, and they don't rush this thing, because it seems like every time we've seen a rush to, buy the IHRA, it folds like a tent. So, and I don't want that. I don't think it's good for drag racing at all. And I don't think it's good for drag racing that the IHRA is not in full go. And I think this only can help if they can start to build back what they once had. And it gives others that maybe smaller teams a place to race. And then maybe because they're able to do that, when they do show up at an NHRA event, they're a little bit more prepared. Although the newcomers that we have out there right now are probably some of the best that we've seen in quite some time. They don't, no one's oiling the track down. No one's doing anything to, slow down progress during a race. They're pretty clean, and they do give each driver a run for their money. You're right. Yeah, just like the USFL, I think it is needed, and it can only improve the product of the NFL. And I think that's the same way you have to look at it for the NHRA. That can only improve the product for them.
Go up one comment right there and read that one.
This one?
Yeah, read that.
Says the NHRA has to learn they can't lean on famous people coming to their races to grow the series. The goal is to make the drivers we have famous. And what you've said is I said that. I forget whose post it was. And they were kind of jumping on the fact that them blowing this whole thing up about Tony. And I agree. Too often they're leaning on everybody else to do their job. And they have to find ways to promote the sport and promote their drivers through social media, through, it takes everybody. But the entity itself has to put in the work. The NFL doesn't rely on insiders like me, doesn't rely on Sports Center, NFL Live, and those talking heads to do their work. They're always promoting. I mean, they're going overseas and taking games overseas, and they're putting in the work to expand the fan base and make it not just a North American sport, but a global sport, like it used to be when they had NFL Europe. It takes work on everybody, and you're right. Look, people don't realize that these influencers get paid. They're not coming out here to do work and do that for free. These influencers, these top influencers get paid for what they do. And that's difficult because at the end of the day, people are in the business of making money. I loved NFL Europe too. People are in the business of making money. And you can't lean on people who are doing obscure things that attract attention nonetheless to come in one time and showcase it and expect for people to be latched in. Their fans say, "Ooh, that's cool," and they go back to doing what they were doing.
Well, and it makes me wonder, and again, we only see one side of it because they're always having interviews when they have downtime or a delay between nitro runs or just a celebrity, quote unquote, on the starting line, whether it be a local band, whoever may be playing, or a famous singer or somebody that comes out and, hey, we got so-and-so at the drags. I remember Gainesville a couple years ago, we got Braun Strowman at the drags, and he's out there presenting trophies, which is good.
That's good.
That NHRA is saying, hey, look, we got people that are famous coming to us. However, what does Braun Strowman's followers know of that? Is Braun Strowman on his Facebook and his Instagram and his Twitter and all that saying, I'm at the drag races, check this out? Are these bands that are getting interviewed, we know that they're there, but do the band's followers know that they're there? And that's where the cross promotion comes in, where they go, hey, we're at the track. This stuff's really cool. If you come into town to see our concert, you should probably buy an NHRA ticket and go check that out while you're here. Because if not, it's just NHRA bringing up all the people that they are getting to come to their race and showing them off to their fan. Well, these fans already buy tickets. They don't care. Yeah, it's cool. Goldberg's here. It's cool. Whoever's here, and it's those people bringing in the new people. And I saw a post this week from David Freiberger on his Facebook page and his Facebook feed, which was very interesting because he said, I feel bad because when I'm working my job with NHRA, I see all these people that shout out or wave and want to talk to me or know me from all of my other things that I do, and I can't sit there and give them the time and talk to them. And I feel bad about that. He's like, I'm not ignoring you people. I'm just letting you know I'm here. I got to do a job, so I don't always have the time for it. And you bring in somebody like that's part of the announce crew and the TV crew, and he's got 500,000. He's got 500,000 followers on Facebook, and his post already had 13,000+ reactions to it, almost 1,000 comments on it, and most of them were saying, if you had an autograph session at the NHRA race, you'd probably get more of a crowd there than the drivers do. So it's like, the people that are following him are knowing that he's going to NHRA, but they're still like not looking at the NHRA as, oh, cool, you're doing this. I want to meet the drivers. They're like, yeah, you're bringing your celebrity to their sport. You're the show. So it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes on how people perceive it.
Yeah, that's true. But it would help if it was known that AEW, WWE star was coming, because then you can use somebody, you can use during Raw or SmackDown that, hey, Braun Strowman is going to be over there. And then they not only can say that he's going to be there, but when he does go there, they can also show what happened on the next Raw or SmackDown, whatever they're on. I think that would help out a ton. And that's the better way of doing it. And I agree with what you said there. It's just, you're just bringing people, you're flagging people and bringing people over, and we get to see them. But does that audience know that they're there? Right. And 9 times out of 10, that is not the case. I don't know what it takes. I am actually kind of surprised that we haven't. I mean, whether it's him or whoever the president is, the president seems to make it to a lot of NASCAR events. I have yet to see said president be at a NHRA event. That would be cool, though, in the sense that everybody knows Trump and he is the man of the hour right now. So
his son was at Indy at the U.S. Nationals with the elite team a couple years ago. So maybe they can work those connections and we can get the Donald out to the U.S. Nationals.
But we need the whole presidential bring-in. Like they brought him in NASCAR. Like we need all the cars. We need all the fanfare. Come in big like you did in NASCAR. Okay?
Well, let him get up there and stage the limo. Let it make a pass. Let the beast go down the track. See what kind of numbers he puts up.
Yeah.
Run it.
Oh, man, that would be great.
Have a match race.
Yeah, that would be great. I don't care what your political affiliation is, but that would be great because I don't really do that whole thing. Doesn't matter to me. But yeah, I think that would be cool. That would be cool. But it's been quite the show, ladies and gentlemen. And I've got to let this voice rest, and I've got to do another one. if you're not going to be watching the Power Hour, unfortunately, due to some scheduling conflicts, we were unable to grab Maddie, but we will be doing that. I will be saying the same thing on the Power Hour as well. It's just one of those things that happen, man. I mean, come on, guys. How many times did I put in a thumbnail that Brian Loans is going to be here, and Brian wasn't able to make it because he had other things that stopped him from coming. So this is one of these things that happen when booking people. But with that said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a great show. Thanks for your participation. Loving the new comers that we have, like Randy Johnson, Blake, and so many others who are lurking in the backgrounds that may not comment. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. For Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, for everything Nitro, and of course, our go-to for stats for the NHRA Drag Race Reference. We thank you so much, and until next week, good night, everybody.